because you probably try to make some change and you get some frustrations. Well, I'm here to tell you, we all get that. That's why I kind of want to put it out there is, how to make the change you want without being pissed off and frustrated all the time. Because I see two routes people take as they're coming up. Everyone wants to make some change. Uh, Most of the time, it's for the better, and sometimes they get rejected right away and get upset over it, and others get it to happen and then keep on that path. Well, I'm here to tell you that I've been rejected more times than, and depending on your reaction and how you encounter is going to dictate if you're going to be upset or happy. So this is all going to be a choice if you're going to be pissed off and frustrated all the time, or if you're just going to flank. Instead of going head on for something, try to flank it. Kind of covered it. There's times you probably failed at making that change, and there's times you've been successful at it. You need to learn from every encounter that you have. You can get the change. Sometimes it just takes patience. If you guys have read the book, I talk about in the book a lot, and there's other people out there saying too that being a parent is very similar to running a crew or being in the fire service when you're trying to change. You don't always get it head on. You can't just tell a kid, "Hey, go to bed now," and they're going to listen to you. You got to flank them, right? You got to figure out, hey, maybe if I rock them or tell them a story, give them some warm milk, whatever's going to work, I'm going to get the end result that I'm looking for, them to go to bed, and they're going to be able to go to bed without being all upset. And I say this when experiencing it firsthand and also raising a 2-year-old. I'll tell you a quick little story. This happened just last night. We're not very good with bedtime routines, and I get to blame for that because I enjoy the attention that I get from my little girl. But I'm trying to put her to sleep, and I have transitioned into rocking her in our little rocking chair we got in our room, and it's now turned into she's to lay on my chest and fall asleep on me instead of going to her crib. So that thing has backfired. Where I thought that might help get her tired and get her into the crib has now turned into just sleeping. So I put her in the crib, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, how am I going to accomplish this? And all right, I'm gonna walk. She's already upset, but I'm just gonna walk out. I'm gonna wait a couple minutes and then I'll go back in. And I walk out. She's already upset. I hear my wife say she's gonna throw up. I go, she seconds me walking out of the room, and now we have a bigger mess. Why? Because I try to go head on with her instead of flanking her. So my wife took over because I was pretty much at my wit's end, going, hey, what I'm doing is not working, so we got to figure something out. So what's going on in my personal life really relates to professional life. And you can get the change. You just gotta. I talked about a little bit is flank it, right? But what happens when you put yourself out there and you're trying to make that change? The naysayers, right? They want you to fail. Why do they want you to fail? Because they also failed. And it's kind of like the monkeys climbing a ladder. I don't know if you guys have heard that scenario where they put a bunch of monkeys in a cage and they put a banana at the top of a ladder. And every time a monkey climbs a ladder, they spray the monkey with hose. So then the monkeys learn, hey, don't go after the ladder. Get out the monkeys over time. And the new monkey every time tries to go up and get that banana, and the rest just pull them down. They're not spraying them anymore with the water, but the people that are already there just keep bringing that monkey down. And that's kind of what's going on. Other people have failed, so anytime you're trying to do something and they don't understand it, they're going to try and pull you back down. And you really have to forget that, because if you're going to base every decision you make on what someone might say about you, then just don't try to make change. Just don't do anything, because you could come up with a cure for cancer and it's going to piss somebody off somewhere. So you really have to stop giving into those naysayers and just do what you think is right. Also, when you succeed, they view themselves as failures because they didn't do it. And I'll go into some examples on that, what I've experienced firsthand. But let's get to the goal of this presentation, right? There's two individuals in the spectrum probably represented in this group. There's the new guy. So my goal for you, if you're a new guy watching this, is to kind of start you on the right path and to prevent some frustrations you're going to have in the future. And my goal for the senior man that's in this influence, because instead of getting upset when change happens or you don't get your way, you're going to figure out a way to react better, control your emotions, and get the change that you want. And that's what's going to take is the senior man culture. We've lost some of that, and I don't know why. I don't have reasons. The more people take ownership and at senior man culture, the better off we're all going to be. So goal number 2 is ultimately, if you want to make that change, you have to take ownership. I actually just had a conversation with a gentleman I work with, and I was getting frustrated. More people at this department took ownership, we'd have a lot less problems. And I didn't realize at the time, but that's kind of what I've had pent up. And because we all want to blame someone else or someone else's job. No, if we all take ownership of the situation, it's going to get better. And the only way to take ownership is to get involved. You can't be sitting on the sidelines anymore. So I'll give you a quick backstory for those of you that might be new or haven't. I'm a generational firefighter. My grandfather was a firefighter. My father was a firefighter. And obviously I am. And we all started actually at the same department outside of Chicago. It was a smaller department. My grandfather was a volunteer. And my father started as a volunteer there and went on to a different department, become a career guy. And I started volunteer time work at that department and has since moved down to Southwest Florida. Well, on that department, it seemed like everybody was a generational fireman. It was smaller, but it was slower than where I'm at now. But there was a culture that was there. And when I came down to Florida, same culture. I started seeing, because it was a great agency, that there are some people that join the fire service for the work schedule. They join the fire service for the benefits, the retirement. I joined the fire service because I've always liked being a firefighter. That's what I was raised around. The point is, you're going to have different motivations why you join. And the bigger the agency, the bigger mix of have. So I've had a lot of frustrations when I first came down of, why didn't we have certain things already in place that we had at my old department? And I've always waited for somebody else to make that happen. And I was always like, well, someone should put together station patches. We should have station shirts. Somebody should do this training. Someone. And I kept saying that over and over. And it took a few years for me to realize that I'm someone. We're all someone. And I kept having some failures in the beginning when I was trying to make some things happen. And it was getting frustrated until I learned that if I'm going to do the same thing, I'm going to get the same results. So I have to change what I'm doing, right? If you want different results, you got to change what you're doing. And it took me a little while to figure that out. So I started, as I talked a little before, is flanked for success, all right? And these are just a few of the things I've been able to, different things I've done to accomplish. I'll go into some bigger stories, but something as simple as station patches, where maybe you think that's dumb, and that's fine. I think that's a pride thing, and I really think every station should have that. We never had them, and I worked along with another guy who's an artist. I am completely not an artist. If you saw me draw, you'd think my little girl might have been doing the drawing. We came up with station patches so we can get it approved, because that was a new thing. And currently on my department, we only have 6 stations, but we've got 4 stations with station patches. At the time we came up with one, we were the only one, and it's spread. There's still 2 stations that haven't done it yet. But hey, it was a step somebody had to do it, right? Pinning ceremony. We used to get an email with some balloons saying, hey, you got promoted, and you might get your badge through the inter-office mail. And I'm going to touch on that story a little bit more later. Real relevant training. When I first got my station, I had a man, and he had 20 plus years on, and he wasn't used to my kind of training, because he, at one point, this was before I got hired. Now we're in Southwest Florida, 3 hours south of Tampa, so south of the frost line, and we had ice rescue training, some video training that was put on at one point. And so he was used to just busy work, not getting anything out of training. So I started doing that real relevant training at the station level and department level. Someone had to put it on, right? Building props. I heard a guy the other day saying, hey, we should have a forceful entry door at every station. We've got one at mine. It's made out of wood. It might not be like those steel doors, but it's something. And that takes one guy going, I'm going to build this. And I had a crew member a little over a year ago that put that together for us. Officer Development School. We just had our first one here. Guess who was involved in it? Operation Ready for Roll Call. So something different. I've always been big on guys being operation ready, combat ready, however you want to put it, but it's, making sure your air pack's checked, making sure your gear's on the truck, your par tags are in place. Let's be ready for that call, because I've had those 655 fires. That was some of the biggest fires of my career, and I really want my people ready. Well, we had a change in administration, and one of the new things that came out was ready. And some guys at different stations struggle with it. So what I started doing, a larger crew, to make sure everyone was on board, is we started doing a roll call. 7:05, I'm on the pager going, hey, let's go. So if they weren't, they would be at that point. And that just took ownership and getting more involved, instead of sitting back in the office and trying to plan the day. Is get my butt out there, have the plan already, and make sure we're good to go. That's just a small example of something. You got to change what you're doing if you want to get the different results. Now we've built that culture where there's days I'm out checking my stuff and every one of my crews already got it checked. So we don't have to do that roll call. Maybe it takes a little bit later on, whatever works. But once again, these are small examples to try to get you to understand that you are someone and you can make that change. It might take some more work. It might take some more flanking, but it can happen. When I started doing all this and dove into a little bit more coaches and some developing how I looked at things, was anytime something happens in our life, there's something we can learn from it and something that's positive. And I actually had a discussion with my mom a couple weeks ago, and she didn't understand. She's like, so you're trying to say that there's a positive in everything that happens? And I said, yeah, it's hard to think about it, because there's some horrible things that go on that people experience in their lives, but there's always something to learn from it and to take away from that situation. So every morning, if you guys don't know, I Monday through Friday I do like a live audio post, and every morning I have a little journal. It's on my phone, and I ask myself, what happened? Why is it positive? And what's the lesson that I learned? That doing is going to change my way of thinking over something that occurred in my life. Maybe it's something I was frustrated about, that I was thinking about, something that happened the day before, just whatever's going on in that moment. And now I'm just trying to train my head to try and look for a positive. Stuff's not going to be perfect. No one has a perfect life. It might look like it, but they have their struggles that you just don't see. And an example that I thought about earlier was, some of you, if you've known me for a while, you know this. If you don't, I've got photos to prove it. Probably not going to post those. But we worked out Monday through Saturday, 3 hours a day. And I'd come home with bleeding hands from the blisters. I'd have to put socks on them, something called water balm to soften up your hands so your calluses didn't rip off. But we put in, you're looking at 18 hours a week of training to make what we did when it was competition time look easy. Because that's what gymnast does, is tries to make hard events look easy. Well, it looks easy to the naked eye that's never done it, but you have no idea the work that's put in and the sweat that's put in, and some of the pain that person's gone through to get those results. Well, that's our lives, right? That's a pretty good representation. And but using these 3 questions, what happened, positive, get a positive out of it. If you want to use that, I highly recommend it. But this is something I learned along the way. I just want to share it with you guys, and it has helped. Pinning ceremony. So I told you we used to get our badge through interoffice mail. Maybe an email went out with some balloons on it saying you got promoted, with all that work. And one of my best friends, that's how he got his captain's badge, was through interoffice mail. And he was kind of bummed out. I took that same captain's exam. I didn't get promoted. And put in that kind of work, and to, company officer is one of the best positions in the department and most influential, and to treat it that way. And it wasn't being treated in a negative way. It's just we never had anything in place. So this was my little story on how we finally got a pinning ceremony. It started probably a year before this actual first ceremony, and our chiefs used to meet in a small room. I remember walking by, and I just made a casual mention over, we should have a pinning ceremony. Like most firefighters, engineers, company officers do when they see a chief, we should do this. Well, That's not much of a presentation, is it? That's just a casual conversation. And guess what? Nothing transpired from it. Well, this situation was still on my mind, and so I regrouped. I put together a small presentation, and I asked to meet with all the chiefs. And I would say the majority of them were able to make the presentation. And I had some pictures of some guys in my area that recently were promoted or hired, and their family members presenting with their badge. And it was a really nice ceremony to share with them, hey, this is something we could be doing for our people. And it started happening. All the chiefs were talking, and they're going, yeah, this is a great idea. Look who's going to head it up. And, because their plates are all full, and I'm listening, and I heard, some chiefs that were going to over-engineer the shit out of it to the point where one guy was going to get a plastic badge in the beginning and get a real badge later, and it was getting to the point where I'm like, oh my God, this isn't going to happen. It's so complicated. And I sat there and I thought about it, and I go, hey, I'll organize it. I'll put together, I'll figure it out, and then you guys just be there to deliver it. And guess what? Then it fell in my lap. But what I have to do, I had to step up on the responsibility of organizing all the things, which actually, after doing it a few times, is not that difficult, but it's just getting it started and going, hey, let's do the best we can with what we have. And our chief was up there, and he presented, and it went off very well. And then the next one, we had a different chief in charge, and it went off well again. And I think it was the chief said, hey, I'd like you to do the opening speech for the ceremony, because he was going to be retiring soon, and he wanted to make sure that this kept going. And so I had a little bit more of a part and wasn't really behind the scenes as much, and got a little opening speech to give to everyone. And then once again, he presented everyone with their badges. And it was really, really nice. And I've watched it kind of evolve a little bit and get a little better, but it takes getting involved and doing some of the work. Because we've got problems, we got solutions, right? We're all good at finding those problems. But it's always coming up with a solution. We always want someone else to do it. So, my chief used to say, hey, you're going to come in the problem, you have two solutions. And I just, I talk ship a couple of the presentations. There's some good videos on YouTube. You can just look it up. But that's a way to start the vocabulary usage to help people understand that, hey, you got to start coming up with these solutions, because anyone can find problems. Maybe you watching this right now, this is a free webinar, the lighting, the audio, whatever it is. Get involved, help me fix it. But how often does that go on in your station or in your department, where you got people coming to you with issues, and unless you're going to get involved, there's really no point in getting worked up, right? Because you got to get involved in these situations to make them better. And that's going to reduce that frustration. Unless I'm going to show up at a different and do some training with them, I really can't get upset if some of the training they're doing isn't as enjoyable as the training we're doing. It is what it is. So here's a case study of a guy that got involved and has morphed into something probably bigger than he ever imagined. Was Aaron Field. He's a firefighter for Seattle Fire Department. And he has made drastic change because he took ownership and he got involved. If you don't know his story, he went off to try to better himself. He wanted to be a better firefighter to serve his community. He lived in the community that he served. And he went and learned, and he would start drilling in his own station. And soon enough, people on his crew would join in and help him. And then he had buy-in with his crew. Well, they got pulled off to do a drill by the training division, and they performed substantially better than most of the other crews that were showing up. And they were asked what they were doing. Well, Aaron explained what he was doing. And he had support from the firefighter level all the way to chief level, and he was able to change the culture of the department from going from fist fights over a nozzle in the front yard to working as a team, having that assigned nozzle position and a similar communication, and moving with a purpose and increase the performance of it. And he also started getting people reaching out outside of his department to teach, and he has done countless trainings. He's come to my area 2 or 3 times, and I think we're going to bring him down again. Fire where it was a fatality fire, but the crew on scene had located the victim in just over 2 minutes being on scene, had the victim out at 2:20, and the fire out in 3, with a 6-month guide on nozzle by using some of the methods that Aaron teaches. And so he's impacted the fire service as a whole because he took ownership of the situation, got involved, right? So that's a little example there. But we're going to start getting into the little bit more of the meat and potatoes of this presentation. So as it was titled, If Not You, Then Who? And I actually called the battalion chief that used to say this to me all the time earlier today to touch base. He retired a little over a year ago. I wanted to let him know I was doing this presentation. So if not you, then who? It's going to be all about making that positive change. Reduce your frustrations and set the example for others to follow. You can talk all you want, but people are going to follow what you're doing. And I've watched more and more people on my crew start to take ownership of stuff and get more into some issues that affects them. And it's really cool watching that evolve. I told you I'd talk a little bit more. We just had our first officer development school. And for the most part, our officer development is self-developed. It's on your own. And, a handful of books you got to read for the exam that's picked by our administration. And, you can go to conferences or you can not go to conferences. You can find your own officer development for school or not. It comes down to the books are written and an assessment center. So, hey, let's give back. Let's help people. Let's develop what we, the culture that we want. And how about we do an officer development? I want to keep it simple because I don't know the best way. This was going to be the first time, and when you start simple, you can always do something a little bit better. And so I put an email out to. So we've got 21 captains, 3 battalion chiefs, and we had 4 administration chiefs at the time. I didn't put out to all the captains. Some of the captains were traveling or didn't have a station assignment for a while, but I put it out to the majority. Anyone, because I wanted results taught, experience driven, not, hey, I use a book and you think that's great, or you learned it in a class and you think it's great. I want to know what you do and what works. Tell me the results. So I put it out to roughly 21 people overall, I'd say. And out of that 21, only 6 replied. That's it. 6 people. 3 captains, 2 battalion chiefs, and a division chief decided that they were going to teach this officer development. It's a start. I was actually surprised, and I thought that was actually going to get involved because this was a new thing. And even some guys with 25-year captains, I actually gave a couple personal phone calls to say, hey, would you like to do this? And they said, no, I'm not big on standing in front of people and talk. All right, that's your choice. So 6 out of 20 was a success because that's more than I thought. I was hoping to be more than me, and it was so great. And we just basically taught. I told them, teach your best stuff. And so it was more like a conference style. It wasn't as structured as maybe some others, but I just wanted guys to teach their best stuff. Got after the 2 days of it is. It was very similar, and they thought it was going to be more about my department, how to be a company officer. So guess what? The next one's going to be more structured, and we're going to evolve it a little bit. But I'm going to tell you something. We had naysayers. Even though I invited everyone, there was comments made of all the new company officers are teaching. Why is that? Everyone was invited that had time on, and they chose not to, but then they wanted to bring down the guys that are actually getting involved. It didn't stop us, though. We kept doing it. We had great results. People showed up. They got something out of the course. And maybe those other people will step up this time. Maybe they won't. But what? That person's frustrated and pissed off, but they're not involved in it. They did nothing but sit back on the sidelines and complain. Is that you? Or are you the guy involved, ignore the naysayers, trying to make things a little bit better than they are? Are you seeing a pattern? Good, that you're seeing the constant wheel going, that you're someone, all 11 of you right now that are in this webinar, you can get involved and make those changes because you're going to have less frustration. Get in that seat, you realize that there's some challenge you got to overcome, but the more people that get involved, the better off everything's going to be. So this is pretty much all about developing that mindset of ownership, that you are somebody. If you need change, you can affect it above or below, but you have to get involved with it. Too often, I think we're worried about what other people are going to say, and that's something that you have to come to grips with to stop. All right, I got a little video. I want to start. Maybe some of you have seen it before, but it's a Jocko video, which I'm a big fan. I'm actually drinking some Jocko tea in my favorite mug. Let you guys check out the mug. This raises money for an officer development school that happens in Palm Beach County. And once I saw the mug, I had to get it for myself. But let's go ahead and get that video going for you.
War is a nightmare. War is awful. It is indifferent and devastating and evil. War is hell. But war is also an incredible teacher, a brutal teacher. And it teaches you lessons that you will not forget. In war, you are forced to see humanity at its absolute worst. And you are also blessed to see humanity in its most glorious moments. War teaches you about sorrow and loss and pain. And it teaches you about the preciousness and the fragility of human life. And in that fragility, war teaches you about death. But war also teaches you about brotherhood and honor and humility and leadership. And unfortunately, war teaches you the most when things go wrong. And for me, one of the most impactful lessons that I learned from war was in the spring of 2006 in the city of Ramadi, Iraq, which at the time was the epicenter of the insurgency, where brutal and determined terrorists ruled the streets with torture and rape and murder. And it was in one neighborhood of that city, during an operation that I was in charge of, when all hell broke loose. We had multiple units out on the battlefield fighting the enemy. We had friendly Iraqi soldiers, we had U.S. Army soldiers and U.S. Marines, along with small elements of my SEAL team. And then the fog of war rolled in, with its confusion and chaos and mayhem, and with its gunfire and enemy attacks and screaming men and blood and death. And in that fog of war, through a series of mistakes and human error and poor judgment and Murphy's Law and just plain bad luck, a horrendous firefight broke out. But this firefight, it wasn't between us and the enemy. This firefight, tragically, was between us and us. Friendly forces against friendly forces, fratricide, the mortal sin of combat, and the most horrific part of war. And when it was over and the fog of war lifted, one friendly Iraqi soldier was dead, 2 more were wounded. One of my men was wounded. The rest of my SEALs were badly shaken. And it was only through a miracle that no one else was killed. And it was reported up the chain of command what had happened. That we had fought and wounded and killed each other. And when we got back to base, things didn't get much better. There was a message waiting for me from my... And then I went on to explain to them some new tactics, techniques, and procedures that we were going to implement to ensure that this kind of travesty never happened again. And I will tell you something, it hurt. It hurt my ego. It hurt my pride to take the blame. But I also knew that to maintain my integrity as a leader and as a man, I had to take responsibility. And in order to do that, I had to control my ego so that my ego did not control me. And you know what? I didn't get fired. In fact, my commanding officer, who had expected excuses and finger pointing, when I took responsibility, when I took ownership, he now trusted me even more. And my men, they didn't lose respect for me. Instead, they realized that I would never shirk responsibility, and I would never pass that heavy burden of command down the chain and onto them. And you know what? They had the same attitude. Unlike a team where no one takes ownership of the problems, and therefore the problems never get solved, with us, everyone took ownership of their mistakes. Everyone took ownership of the problems. And when a team takes ownership of its problems, the problems get solved. And that is true on the battlefield, it is true in business, and it is true in life. So I say, take ownership. Take extreme ownership. Don't make excuses. Don't blame any other person or any other thing. Get control of your ego. Don't hide your delicate pride from the truth. Take ownership of everything in your world, the good and the bad. Take ownership of your mistakes, take ownership of your shortfalls, take ownership of your problems, and then take ownership.
Looks like it's back working now. Just want to check again. You guys all able to hear me pretty well? I had some issues on my end. I wasn't sure if how it was, everything was getting laid out to you guys. See you in here. Great. So Jocko, I listen to his podcast often. Some of the insight, it's good stuff, guys. There's a lot of material out there, but getting right in the head. When the team takes ownership, problems get solved, right? Are people sitting around your station just complaining about issues, not getting involved, or are they stepping up? And I want to give you a small example. We've got a union meeting tonight that my wife's working. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it or not. Um, but in a day, what I can give, so I can't complain about anything. That's a tough position being a union leadership because of what you're getting exposed to, and we got a guy he's doing the best he can with it. It may not be uh, perfect, but unless you're going to get involved and help them, you can't complain. And that's just a small example because I hear a lot of people, well, we should have this and more places, more time off. Well, who doesn't want that? Unless you're going to get there and put in the time, the work, and the time off that this guy's doing, then you really got a leg to stand on, and taking ownership and checking that ego. So hopefully I've at least gotten through to you a little bit of understanding that ownership and involvement, that's truly the answer to whatever you got going on, and to stop lying to yourself and making these excuses. But once you're involved in the situation, you still gotta what Jocko was talking about is keep your ego in check, because I'll tell you right now, mine gets challenged almost every day in my personal and professional life. Not in as an insubordinate way, but maybe I'm wrong, or I let my temper get out of hand instead of keeping control of my emotions. And I had to recognize that. And most of the time, I actually get embarrassed because I couldn't keep cool. And I was pretty frustrated last night that I made stepping out while my daughter's already upset caused her to throw up, which in turn caused my wife to have to get up in the middle of the night because she's got to work today. And so my decision on walking out caused a lot of other problems, and I was embarrassed by it. And it's funny because I told my little girl, she looked at me and she said, sorry. And I said, no, I'm sorry. Daddy should not have acted. You shouldn't have gotten upset. And she gives me the biggest hug. And, it was pretty cool. But at the end of the day, I'm in control of my emotions. No one else can control me. So that's on me. So I talk about keeping your ego in check. Put your pride aside to open up your mind, because if you sit there and say, right now I'm a captain. I'm the captain, and you're just an engineer, you're a fireman, or whatever reason, what you say doesn't count. I'm shut off, and I'm letting that's ego right there. The minute you start using rank place, that's ego. We all have it, Part of ego is even promoting, climbing yourself, putting on this webinar right now. That feeds the ego a little bit. Whatever it is, it doesn't always have to be bad, but you have to keep control of it and stop prejudging people. I have a handful of guys, try to give them the benefit of doubt, and you can really learn something from somebody instead of listening to what other people are saying. A lot of it is that listening. People actually when they feel they can be listened to. I had a guy recently, he got his paramedic privileges. Basically, for my department, just because you went to paramedic school and you passed the exam doesn't mean you get to operate as a paramedic in the field. You have to go a written exam and scenarios with your peers, and then an interview with the doctor to operate. And I had one of my guys recently credentialed, that's what we call it. And with that comes a pay raise. Well, I had no idea the stress he was under every day coming in, and he kept pushing off studying and beat himself up over it. And because I saw a complete difference. Once he got credentialed, he was just more motivated. He wanted to do some more stuff because he's no longer feeling that pressure. But if I wrote him when he seemed stressed out, he probably wouldn't want to tell me that now. So, I treat all my guys because I care about them. I want to see them all succeed. And so they'll tell you some things that's going on. And if you're always harping on people, you're not going to get that point. Do a trial run with some good suggestions. Right? Everyone's got something to offer, but if you think your way is the only way, you're going to be shutting them down, just like this is how we've always done it, and we're not doing a pinning ceremony. Well, they just shot down something that really could have helped the morale of the department, right? So do your best to assess some stuff and give people control over things and let them ride with an opportunity, because that's what's going to help build that team that you're with. Because if you're taking ownership and you're getting involved, those around you, they're going to start doing that too, directly around you. You're not going to change the whole department overnight, but people follow your example. And now that you have your team, this is what you have to do to maintain that team. Is understand everyone's, there's most of the guys, I think I got the youngest child out of everyone on my crew. They've all got older kids. So guess what? I go to them for dad advice. What'd you do when this happened or that happened? and I understand, some other stuff they bring to the table, and it really helps out with that. I had a great situation going on right now. We have a lot of vacancies in our administration, and there's rumors going around that I'm going to be the next training chief, and they're just rumors because there's been nothing. I don't even know if I qualify, but I did let my guys know that if I'm qualified, I was going to apply for the position, and it was a nice moment because they all said, we want to see that, but at the same time, we don't lose our captain because we got a really good thing going, and we do. We have a great crew, and I don't want to see any of my. Oh, I want to see them promote, but I know, they're going to promote eventually to be captains or engineers someplace else, and then I'm going to have a new batch. So it's just nice that when the opportunity, they see, hey, this might happen. Maybe I'll be there, maybe I won't, whatever is going to happen. But you have something good going on that they express that they're going to miss you and they don't want you because of the team. I actually just got a pair of socks that says "Ringmaster of the Shit Show" because the guy put on my desk. He goes, "You might not be here by Christmas time, so here you go." And I thought that was funny. Now, opportunity might be there, might not. I have no idea. It's a seat of government, so the positions haven't been advertised. But when you build that good team, you'll know it. So some story time with checking your ego. I have had some good experiences and some not so great. So earlier in my career, before I moved down here, I had worked for a handful of departments. I talked about one in particular because that's where I spent the most time, but I was actually at another department for a short period of time. And I was in the medic room at the hospital doing a report, and this individual came and he said, "Hey, Superman, what's going on?" And I had no idea who they were, so I realized that they worked for another agency that I worked at. I didn't respond because I'd never been called that before. I didn't understand what was going on. Well, kept saying, "Hey, Superman, I heard you know everything and you're the best." And I looked up, I'm doing my report, and I really wish I could tell you I said something smart ass, but at the time I was 20 and kind of was quiet, kept to myself, and I just told him, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who you are. And I grabbed my, I was doing the bubble sheets for all the older guys. Remember, I was doing our bubble sheets for run reports, and I took it in another room because I just didn't want the confrontation. Well, lo and behold, because I was quiet at that other place, a lot of people were making some things up and spreading rumors, and this guy thought it was his job to confront me on it, even though he was a fireman just like me. And that's when I started realizing that, I call it as the hydrant turns, some of the drama at work where people, they hear something, they don't want to get to know for themselves. And, that's a choice. You can choose to do that or not. And it's hard at times because you hear something and you get involved. But understand this, when you start hearing drama about someone else, it's someone else's drama. Don't get involved in it. And that's going to keep you in a better state of mind and from you getting involved in some of that. Now, around the same time, I had another instance where I was doing a shift exchange at a different station for a lieutenant I don't normally work for. And at the end of the shift, he came up to me and he goes, I heard a lot about you, but I don't think any of it's true. You're a good worker, and I like having you here. And I said, well, I appreciate that. Now, the individual that chose not to believe what he was hearing and wanted to judge me for me, and in turn had a good outcome and kind of showed me that's how I want to be. I want to be the guy that makes my own references and doesn't just go with the rumor mill going on, because if you're quiet in the fire service and people don't like what you're doing, we've always had a bad time of actually confronting someone. Hey, if you don't like when it's wrong or bad or making things a horrible situation. And so fast forward into my career days here, and a similar situation. I received a guy transferred from a station that doesn't get it, isn't cut out, all that same bullshit that you hear. And sometimes it can hold up, but a lot of times it doesn't. It's just people judging someone based on themselves instead of trying to get to know the guy and figure out what's going on. So I had a guy, he came with me. Within a couple of weeks, he squared away. Found out what the issue was learning, and sometimes you just got to stay on him, which that's what I found with some of the younger generation is you got to stay on them. Keep reminding them. So anyways, we were working on a long lay load, a courtyard load, bundle load, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it was going to be 100 feet of 1.75 inch fed by 300 feet of 2.5 to be used at some of our apartment complexes or long stretches. Well, he went on his own time and learned about the Cleveland load, and he wanted to try it out. Well, a couple of years prior, I knew this. He didn't. We tried it out and we didn't have success with it. I told him, you know what, let's go ahead. You put this work in it, put this all together, and let's see how it works. Benefits to it, and then we saw its limitations real quick to what we needed. And he was able to realize that, this isn't going to work for us without me sitting there knocking down his idea. So all three of these stories have something in common of, make your own decisions, but let things play out. Don't always just jump to conclusions, which unfortunately we do sometimes. Some limiting beliefs that we have. And what are these limiting beliefs? Is I'll call it like your invisible handcuffs. They're the fake stories that you're making. Why you can't do something. Maybe this isn't change because I don't have this job to do, or I don't have the time. They're all excuses. So when you're done making them, let me know, and you can get involved and take some ownership and get some things done. Because at the end of the day, you're your own hero. No one's coming. No one's going to show up and make those. Remember, I talked about company station patches. No one's going to show up and do that. You can wait. Maybe one day someone might, but you can do it. You don't have to be of whatever rank or tenure there. You can do it. And a lot of these rules, I like calling rules, bullshit rules. I learned that somewhere else. It was kind of interesting. But that's what we do. We go around making reasons. Well, me and another company officer, we're not too fans of our probationary firefighter books. We want to make some changes. So let's get involved, get the book, make some changes. That's how it works, right? No one wants to get involved and put in that work. It's going to take work. So making up these rules. And too often, what do we also? We're worried about what people are going to say about us. They're going to say shit. So just people talk shit about them. Look up any type of diet or exercise, and there's going to be a whole bunch of pros on the internet about it and a whole bunch of cons about it. What I just looked up the other day, and I was shocked. There's this new honey hive they have in your yard, and you can just pull a lever on it, and it has bees in it, but it dumps, and it's really easy. I was like, that's kind of cool. It's a little expensive, but it was a cool thing. Well, I looked it up, and there's someone bashing it. Oh, that's not good for the bees, and it's funny because all the reasons they had weren't facts. They were just made up stories that they had of why this isn't going to work. Meanwhile, there's testimonies of people that have had it work. So this really has nothing to do with the fire service, but it's a recent example of thing that that was my daughter. I think she's waking up early from her nap, so we'll see if she joins us for this. But we make up these rules while we can't do anything, and that's fine, but understand that it's made up. Just stop making up the rules, and you can until someone actually stops you, because the results you're getting is from the work that you're putting in. So if you want to be in better shape, stop making the excuses that you're too busy and put in the work that's needed. Wake up earlier. We all eat 3 to 5 meals a day, however you eat, whatever. Start eating better. Start eating meat and vegetables. Stay away from your processed food. Diet's 80% of it. These are small examples I hear. I don't have time. It's too hard. Even Wendy's and McDonald's has salads there. Saying, or be smart about your ingredients. It can be done, but you got to do the work. A lot of times we don't want to do the work. We want the results. Everything takes work. Wake up earlier, have that discipline, and you're going to get whatever you want, but you got to take that discipline to make that happen. So, ambassador story. I actually had, this is about the time that one of my old battalion chiefs retires, an active battalion chief in charge. And I had built my crew. And anyone's been a company officer a while, that you start losing members of your crew. They promote out, or maybe there's transfers that happen. Whatever happens is it's going to evolve, and you're going to have different people as years go. Just like when you were coming up, you had different, you were on different crews. I did a lot of work with, and really got him in a better place. He was getting transferred out. And I made my claims as for him to stay at a busy house, and we like working with him. We've done a lot of work. Want to keep him. The acting battalion chief at the time made their decision and moved him, and I was pissed off. because not everyone had someone move, but I did. So I took it a little personal. So I reached out to a mentor of mine who was a fire chief, and I talked about it with him. And I said, this is bullshit. I don't understand. Um, why is this happening? And they changed my perspective. Now listen, he goes, that person that you put that work into, that you've shown the way you're doing things, they're now an ambassador to improve operations. So by them going out to another station, they can share what they've learned, and you can share what you're doing that way. I was like, you son of a bitch. He changed my perspective on it, which also made me realize that I could choose my response. And I still didn't want to lose the guy, but I saw it as a positive, kind of what we talked about earlier, asking yourself certain questions, is to see a negative as a positive. Well, that's what this helped me do. It got me out of the mindset that I was in. And hey, okay, this could be a thing, or maybe they want a slower assignment. Whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen. So I can look at it as a positive, or I can just focus on the negative. But what do we do as people? A lot of times we focus on that negative part instead of going, hey, there's something to learn here. Let me take that and go with it, right? So not only do you have to work on the way you think about stuff, but you have to work on how you are, because if you're going to take on this role, you're going to lead this team, whether you're a company officer, senior man, a new guy. Understand this, that you're going to have multiple roles to play if you're leading this team of change makers who are getting involved in taking care of. You're going to be that. You're going to be a dad. Your job is to take care of them, protect and prepare. You got to look out for them and help them out and do what's good. You need to coach them. Right? Think of the football coaches that you had, basketball coaches, gymnastics coaches. They push you, right? They help you get developed. Like I really like coaching, obviously from the title coaching. But taking on that mindset, I think really helps people, that it's not just sitting back and letting people figure out everything on their own. You got to help them along that. And it's okay to be a friend and hang out if you're at that actual formal leadership level. And you got to build that relationship with people. But if you're going to build that relationship, you got to be ready to be a boss sometimes, because sometimes you got to have those harder conversations. But if you're doing the first three really well, being a boss, it's not as hard as you think it is. It's those people that are always being a boss because they're dipping into their leadership equity all the time. Are you going to waste your leadership equity on small things, or use it for the bigger items to make that lasting change? So we talked about you building that team, and people are going to follow your example. If you're doing better and you're getting involved and taking that ownership, people are going to rise up a little bit. So if you're coming in having a bad day, you're going to actually bring your crew, going to be having that good day. Work on your attitude. It comes with you. All right. I got crews that'll say, hey, what's going on? We notice you're a little agitated today. And I got that funk with that. But at the end of the day, you're not going to make everybody a bunch of 10s. If that's how you're looking at that go-getter, like Jocko. Maybe he's a 10 in your eyes. And you've got a group of a guy that's a 2, a 4, an 8, and a 6. Well, don't expect that 2 to be an 8. But you better be making them a 3 or 4, right? You got to move people up along that happiness scale, wherever they're at, wherever they're involved. And how you move them up that happiness scale is getting them involved and helping them take ownership of what's going on. Because no one wants to just come in and be told what to do all day. People want some buy-in with whatever they're doing. And it's that involvement and putting in that work, which helps. And I'm hoping one day to be able to make that connect for people. That sitting around in a recliner is not going to increase morale. What increases morale is getting out there, pulling lines, throwing ladders, forcing doors. Whether through training or hopefully you're catching jobs, that's what does it. That's what keeps we want to go to work and we want to be challenged. And we want to overcome those challenges. To help your people overcome those challenges, you got to put in the work, right? Get that mentality understood, that just sitting around waiting for the calls to happen is not the key to success. It's actually putting in that work and sweating. And we're always going to struggle a little bit. So, end of the day, guys, your life is a direct result of the work you put into it. wherever your fitness is at right now, wherever your rank is at your work, your paycheck, because maybe you make at work your incentives or what you do outside. Whatever it is, it's the result. Like the way I eat right now gives me the result that I have with my body. I went and had pizza last night with my wife and daughter. It was delicious. I had a grouper with salad for lunch, and I may have had key lime pie with it. I might actually have a rum drink later. But guess what? I can't expect to have a six-pack then, can I? Because that's the work I'm putting in. I'm just working out. You guys see posts about it, and I think it's great, but really 80% of it is diet. So once you get that dialed in, you'll get that results with it. But wherever you're at now, if you're frustrated all the time, this is your opportunity to change you, because you got to change it up here the way you're seeing stuff. And you got to make those changes, because once you make them, you're going to get different results, right? So superpowers are passion. Maybe you're really into, if you're on this webinar, you're into the job. End of discussion, right? So you're probably pretty decent at it. Maybe your specialty is forcible entry, pulling lines, throwing leadership, just doing training drills, or just being an all-around really good fireman. All right, you're passionate about it. So what's your job? You got to start sharing that, because when you're sharing that, you're going to attract more people like it, and they're going to understand it's okay. At the time, I didn't see a lot of people that were into the job when I first came on, and I started going to some county training, stuff like that, and I met people very similar to my mindset on other departments. And so guess what? I gravitated to them. And now those guys I teach with at the Fire Academy, and those guys that are involved with the Pools organization, because we want to be around each other and we push each other more and more. And it's not because guess what? Now on my agency, there's a lot more people into the job than there were before, because once you step outside that box and you start showing them hey, to be into this job, ownership, and get involved, more are going to do it, because they're going to see that person out there going, oh, he's doing it and he's getting really good results. I want to be like that. And they're going to, it might take time. It's not going to be overnight. It might not be everybody, but as a start, the more that do it, the better off the team's going to be. Kind of talked about it, it's what you're doing. Whatever comes easy and natural for you is going to be that superpower you want to share with others around you, and it's going to make a lot of stuff better. So how do we stay on it though? You got to stay current with knowledge, right? You got to stay active in fire service teaching, because there's times I've been out teaching a drill, either at the academy or on the firehouse, and I pick up something from somebody else just because I'm staying active in it. Going to conferences. I've gotten to the point now where there's some leadership I go to, and 80% is stuff I already do or been doing, but that 20%, maybe even only 10%, gives you that little bit of an edge. Maybe it's something like, make sure you're giving out praise every shift to your guys. Actual valid praise, not just, hey, nice job today. No, be specific with what it was that pointed out that you liked, and when you give that praise, they're going to be sure to repeat that. And I picked that up one of the last conferences that I went to. Even though there's a lot of repeatable stuff, but that's how you're going to stay in it. You got to keep sharpening that saw, right? Stay active in it, go to things, and bounce ideas off people. There's so much information out there that we're almost drowning in it, so you just kind of have to pick a person's lead, follow what they're in there. Constantly share that information. If you think you know it all, what do most experienced guys say? It's time to get out of this job, right? Because there's always something that we can learn. And in this age right now that we're in with Facebook and YouTube and all the training sites that are out there, you can learn anything that you want. You can get fire behavior, where it might have taken some guy 10 years on a busy station to really get an understanding. You can get on videos. Now, you're not there firsthand, and there's more to it. You actually get firsthand, but you can at least get a jump on it by seeing it and learning it and recreating training so you're better at it. I can tell you right now, I haven't seen enough fire where I can understand reading smoke as well as just practicing it every year, going over stuff. And now we get a building fire, I can sort of, for the most part, pinpoint where it's going on and give a better size up to my crew. So you got to ask yourself, if you're here, obviously this isn't, first class you've been to, you definitely go to conferences. But when's the last time that you stepped outside that box to learn something? I'm trying to branch out now and doing some more teaching. This current course right now, I'll be teaching it live in November at the Great Florida Fire School. So I want to practice with you guys and see how it flows and how it goes. I'll be expecting some feedback later. What are you going to do next? Are you going to start sharing? Are you going to put some classes together? Share your message with people. Tell your story. You got to keep pushing that envelope instead of going on coast, because you're going to get more satisfaction out of a lot of things. So, because at the end of the day, it's knowledge. You can all you want, but if you're not applying it or acting on it, it's pointless. So I can sit here and tell you, hey, how to stop being frustrated. But if you just take this and spent the last hour or so with me and are just like, yeah, that's great, and you don't do anything different, you're still going to have those frustrations, right? So you got to act on it. So I'm going to summarize real quick, guys. End of the day, that ownership mentality is going to get you far in life. It's going to help you overcome a lot of challenges and have a lot less heartache, and you can look at things in a better light, because you got to change yourself, right? Frank Fuso, he says it best: if you can't lead one, you can't lead any. But if you can lead many, what's that do? Start with you. Get everything on board and change that mindset that you got. Everyone wants to lead. They're just waiting for someone to stand out and show them the way. So by you taking that step, either in your firehouse, your fire department, whatever team that you're on, there's going to be more of it, because people are going to see you taking that step and they want to be part of that group that's making changes. Egos eat brains. I've watched people lose their jobs over their ego. Luckily, they never lost a pension or anything like that. A lot of people lose their jobs over egos, lose relationships over egos. And once you get a hold of it, you'll see it rear its ugly head every now and then. You got to kind of keep control of those emotions, because only you control them, nobody else. You're the hero. You're the guy. You're it. You're the one you've been waiting for. So the minute you stop making those excuses and step up, everything's going to get better. And the change you want is going to happen. You can have all the best intentions in the world, but you're judged by your actions. Just get out there and make something happen. Remember your passion, share it. The more you put in this job, the better off you're going to be. We're starting to wrap up. You know, I'm getting a feel for the length of how everything went with it. But most of you, if you don't know, I wrote a book that released earlier this year called Fix Your Firehouse. If you want some a little bit more in depth with some of the stories, or see it in print, you can go ahead and get it. Go to the Brotherhood Coaching site. It's listed on there. You can get it on Amazon. And the Kindle is still only a couple bucks. I've had really good reviews, and if you haven't given me a review and you really enjoyed the book, I appreciate it, because it just spreads that message. I actually just got a text message, started this webinar from one of my good buddies that said, hey, he finally got the book in, he wants to support me with it. So I basically designed this book on my best practices that I've done. I wanted to put it all together because I've learned it more knowledgeable. And I figured it'd be a cool thing to do, to put a book together. So this is what I do. You know, stuff has evolved a little bit, but at the end of the day, you know, I try to make a little program. This is a program. You know, you do the majority of this and load machine in your station. Shortly after that, I actually was at a command officer boot camp in Pensacola, and I had a couple guys ask me, hey, is there going to be another book? And I was like, no, there's going to be another book. That's a lot of work. Well, then I put together this company officer logbook. It's basically, if you guys don't know yet, it's a planner that I'm pretty organized. I plan my day, plan my month, and we get everything accomplished and run a bunch of calls. And we have a good time. And we do training. And I put this together because this is basically, I had a binder at work, and I had ways to keep track of how guys were doing. And I try to concentrate on the positives, because I found out that the minute you start focusing just on negatives, that's all you're going to see. So I didn't want to be like that. Put this together because I wanted to make sure I was more organized with my people, the training that we get done, and I also realized, man, this would be kind of and I save them. I save all my agendas the past couple of years. And instead of doing that all the time, I'm like, well, why don't I just make this into a book? Because that's basically what I had, was a binder, and in that binder form was this. So I put together the book, which once again, you can go to the website, Brotherhood Coaching, under my stuff, and get a link to it. And you know, it's also serves as a keepsake to help people get organized. I've actually had a few people message me through Facebook that talked about the great results they had with it, and you know, that's awesome, because that's all I want, is to help people out, give them some tools that'll make everything a little bit easier, and they don't have to go and do everything on their own. So I appreciate all those people that reach out for it. And if you're not already. If you got this through the email, hit me up on Facebook. You can also email me at johncoach.com, and obviously the website, Brother Coaching. So, what I ask, if anyone that's still on, I know we're a little over an hour that we went. I appreciate you all that's still here. If you got some feedback, type them in the chat. I can stay on. It's 4 o'clock my time. My daughter's going to be asleep for another hour. I don't plan on being on here for another hour, but if there's any questions that you had that you want me to answer, or some feedback on the course we just did, type away, let me know. If you're watching this on a replay, message me, send me an email, whatever it is. But I can explain anything a little bit better, and trying to help everyone out. But otherwise, I say thank you guys. Doesn't look like we got anybody typing. You guys can't do wrong. Jocko is great. Now I'm fired up. I'm reading back to some of your comments. I was trying not to look at them when everything's going on, because that'll distract me from my train of thought if I keep getting distracted by it. Okay. Patrick asks, John, how do you handle situations where company officers check out before they retire and don't really care? That goes on? No. All right, yeah, we've got that. We've got a something called a drop plan, where basically is kind of retired on duty some guys get, because basically they are. So how does company officers check out before they retire? So basically you're talking about an individual that's no longer cares. They're not involved. I think that's safe to say. And I can just give you perspective on where I'm at, because I don't supervise company officers. I'm not dealing with them, but I do have some of those on my department. And what I've seen, I don't know if you supervise or not. Those people, they're not because they've been burned by prior leadership. Because I had a guy, who was one of my senior guys at the time, and that's something that was with him. He was burned by prior leadership. So he didn't want to put himself out there until he saw that I'm really not trying to burn you. I'm trying to help you. So if you're a supervisor of this guy, try and get him involved. See what his interests are, and give him some more responsibility in that area. Maybe he just feels he's like the middle child that no one seems to go to. Well, they don't go to him probably because of his attitude, but try to reach out and get him involved in something. Maybe there's something he's good at that is just not being tackled. Because I see all the time, and then the same people are thinking about possibly promoting to our administration because they want to get involved. They just they haven't had that good leadership that kind of brought that out in them. Actually, subordinate. Okay. So the company officer is your boss. I'm guessing from that. So you're an engineer or senior fireman, and the captain doesn't want to do anything. Well, boom, got it. What we talk about: get involved and take ownership, right? As an engineer, I didn't have a captain. He wasn't really checked out, but he didn't do maybe the training that I wanted. And unfortunately, it wasn't until like later on as an engineer that I started realizing that, dude, I'm the senior man here. I need to start doing what's right. And I took ownership of it and started doing little trainings at the station with my guys and putting together, hey, let's meet for here, or let's go do this. And I was that driver. We had 2 units at the station, a rescue truck and an engine. And I would sit there until Matt Fireman put his seatbelt on. I'd tell him, I used to break balls over it. Put your seatbelt on. Let's do it. I'm not, So you as the senior person, or you got the officer not maybe training what you want, it's time for you to take the reins and try and get them involved. Don't be disrespectful, because that's what happens, right? We get frustrated, then we get disrespectful, more conflict. And I've seen it where guys are like, I don't want everyone to vote, but I want an officer like this, an engineer like this, and a battalion chief that does this. You can't have all that and not be involved in the process. So take some ownership with it. Put on those trainings for your guys. Say, hey, Cap, I want to go over this. Do you mind if I put this training on? Be respectful if you have that company officer, because the last thing you want to do is bash egos there. But there's groups on Facebook. They're get training ideas. Just put something together. Do a little saw training. Whatever it is, K-12 out. Do some drills around the station. But it's going to take you getting more. And I went through that where I got more involved. I took a little less, took some steps back as a captain because I didn't. Every time I get taken away, I view that as now I'm not giving my guys having that captain at the station. I'm doing all these projects for the department. So I try and do what I can for my station, but still be an active company officer. Does that help out, Patrick? Can I tell you, kind of take the bull by the horns, get a little bit involved with it. Anybody else? Questions I can answer? Because that's what this comes down to. Good. You're welcome. I'm glad you got something out of it. Is that ownership? And that was me changing the way I thought about stuff. And this is just sharing a little bit of some stuff I've done has worked. And in the day, I got to understand, unless I want to get more involved, what's happening is going to happen. So getting involved and taking that ownership. Okay. Even when I get in disagreements, I got in a disagreement the other day. I was talking to a guy in the previous shift, and he's normally notorious for passing on work to us. And I try and get my guys, let's not pass on work, let's handle it. If we pass on work, it's because we forgot. It happens. Everyone does it. And I didn't realize it, but at the time, the way I talked to the guy, I go, hey, why didn't you do this? And it would have solved it instead of passing on. And it wasn't what I said, it was how I said it. It made this guy feel dumb. And he had the balls to tell me. And I gave him all the credit. I thanked him, actually. I said, thank you for letting me know that how I was acting made you feel that way, because that's not what I wanted. I'm just trying to help you develop and realize that the more you take ownership and do something, the better off it's going to be for all of us at the station. And, that's something we got to keep in check, because even right there, I talk about leadership, whatever, I falter almost every day with something, but I learned something, and I learned from that instance. I go, I gotta take what I can. I wasn't happy with how I was and made him feel that way, but I didn't get upset. I understood the situation better after we talked, and thanked him and wanted more input if it ever comes up again. But now I got to realize, hey, I got to do something with me and make sure I'm not talking down to someone or doing it in a manner which doesn't make them want to stay involved, because I've had it done to me and I don't like it. So you're going to be, I kept thinking, learning from guys that, they must lose their cool, or all this must never happen anymore. They're so developed and they do whatever. It all happens because we're emotional people. You're still going to have those setbacks, but it's to catch yourself when you're doing it, to not act like a fool and have a temper tantrum and throw a fit and say things that you're going to regret later. That's where all this comes from, is you start controlling that. You don't do it anymore because you have a little bit more control of those emotions of you. Unless you guys got anything else, I'm going to go ahead and stop this. But thanks, Pat, for your questions. Hope it helped. And I'll see you guys later. Maybe we'll have another one of these soon.